Oh my god. I literally did the same thing 5 times and it worked. The 5th time. Am I here? No, wait. I can't just assume I'm in the right spot anymore. Okay. I did go back to the old live somehow. Hey everybody. Sorry about that. I blame it on everybody but myself. Am I in the wrong one still?
I'm getting it to work. One sec.
I should be in the right one, right? Yay! Didiz said it's working. Yeah, I got that right. Hey everybody. Okay. Excellent. Uh-oh. Now I just need to get back to that. That works. Okay. Yay. It's so good to see everybody on purpose and everybody in the same place. Okay. So the purpose of there we go. The purpose of the perimeter series is every once in a while I just want to collect everybody, and if anybody has a question about a case that they've heard about either in the news or from another YouTube channel or anywhere, if you ask, I may not be able to answer, but hopefully somebody else can answer in the chat. If not, then I'll find the answer for you. But I kind of want this to be a chatty kind of thing, because I know in other channels it's fun to talk to each other, but sometimes we don't want to fill the chat with things that aren't related to the topic. Oh, my volume is really low because I don't have my microphone. Could you grab my microphone from the bench in the other room? I'm sorry. I will be louder in a minute. Thank you. I have a Mrs. Steve. His name is Zach. Is that better? Is that better? Press a 1 if you can hear me okay now. Will it update automatically? It's better? Okay. Excellent. How's that? Okay, thank you. Man, that... Oh, sorry. So the first live I did went so much better at the beginning than this. Surprising. But thank you for... Oh my god, it's been 16 minutes. I'm really sorry, everybody. Okay. So, yeah, perimeter series. I just want this to be an opportunity for... if you want to chat about certain cases in the chat while I'm talking about something, or while we got something going on, that is totally fine here. Because I know sometimes in other YouTube channels you don't really want to fill the chat with things that aren't related to the topic, and so this is a chance to get all that out, ask questions about anything. And I may not be able to answer them right away, but I'll definitely make sure that you get an answer. And so even if you want to mention other cold cases that you're interested in that you don't hear anybody talking about, definitely bring those up in here. And I love all these ideas about Miranda says Mr. Carolyn. That's great. Mr. Secrets. She has a good one too. We'll have to come up with. But yes, so I brought along something about just explaining the electromagnetic spectrum, because just a little housekeeping, I guess, just because I forgot to put it in the last one. And so, just to explain the waves a little bit more to you guys, so you understand why people pick certain equipment over other equipment for certain tasks. And then I also have my own cold case that nobody ever talks about, and so I'll bring that up. But if you guys have a cold case that you wanna that you don't hear people talk about, definitely bring it up during this, because I really want the Perimeter series to be a place. Every once in a while, I can get everybody together and we can make sure that we're all on the same page for cold cases and other true crime stuff. And yeah, so that's what this is all going to be about. And so, yeah, and if you have any questions, tech-wise, right now is a really great time to do it. And then after we're inside the perimeter, we'll go outside the perimeter and just chat. And anybody that doesn't want to just talk about whatever, they can head out. And anybody else that's got anything else they want to talk about, that is fine outside the perimeter. So I talked with other people about this idea, and they said it wasn't going to be a dumpster fire. So, yay. So inside the perimeter, I'm going to end up chopping information off if I do it that way. You never know how it's going to look till you get there. Okay. Ta-da! So yeah, so I'll go through the electromagnetic spectrum and sound waves, and then I'm going to talk about a cold case murder that I really want solved. Doesn't probably look like, doesn't really look great for it being solved. It's been 50 years, but hopefully. And then, just other cold cases, true crime mysteries, tech questions at the end. And yeah. So the first thing I thought I'd ruin your eyeballs with is the electromagnetic spectrum that you normally see. I prefer to have the longer wavelengths down here and the shorter wavelengths on the right, but sometimes you see this reversed. Anyway, so these are called transverse waves, and anything that has electromagnetic field that's moving through space, through our atmosphere, through wherever, it works really well in a vacuum like space. That's why we can do astronomy in space. When we're looking at the geophysics-wise, we're not really concerned with small wavelengths, as you can see that the frequency here, when you have a higher frequency, like they're all jumbled together, you have a shorter wavelength, so it's shorter between those jumbles. And as you go, and then so in the other end of the spectrum, from like gamma rays, you'll have radio waves, this is the area we really work in, because we want to see things in the ground. You can't really see things in the ground. They can't be resolved if you have short wavelengths. You can only resolve things with the longer wavelengths. So that's why we work in this area of the spectrum. And in particular, everybody's favorite is the visible light, because that's totally what we're using right now. And you can see that red has actually a longer wavelength than the purple, or I don't know, indigo. I don't know what we're calling purple in this kind of picture. And then you see that the wavelengths are longer. And also, when you have a longer wavelength, you do have less energy. You have higher energy in the shorter wavelengths, and you have lower energy in the longer wavelengths. That's just how the particles are moving. You just have less energy, but that really affects how you can collect your data, because it's called attenuation. The waveform that you're using to collect your information from from the transmitter to the receiver will die much quicker if it has lower energy. So like radio waves are great to image things because radio waves are GPR, but they lose their energy pretty quickly. And I just thought everybody's favorite, the visible spectrum, because we use it every day in our everyday lives. Only they totally reversed it. They have the shorter wavelengths and the higher frequencies on the left. I prefer otherwise, but couldn't find a different picture that was worth it. And so the waves that we're concerned with are the transverse waves. They go up and down, like water waves. And sound waves get pushed together. I ended up not really going into that very much. Whoops. Oh, yes. So, like I was saying, GPR is radio waves. So it's great for some things, not great for other things. We have a long wavelength. There's a whole discussion I will probably eventually have about the resolving. I'm totally distracted now because I saw something about Steve and accelerants. But I guess he's very careful when he uses them. Watching Chris trying to start a fire for an hour and complain about the cold drove me to arson. Oh, I always knew he'd be driven to arson. So, yeah, and then I also mentioned when we were talking about, if you saw the first video, I think that they use the microwaves, the X-band of the microwave spectrum, so you actually can chop up the different areas of the spectrum into even smaller areas, and they were using that to try to find the guy in the field with that big radar that they brought on that truck. And then you have your infrared, which is thermal. And so that's what they used to eventually get the guy, because we all emit in this area of the spectrum right here. And so we're shooting out wavelengths whether we like it or not. And so we can pick up that infrared. And also infrared works with like your TV remote and stuff like that. And then the normal pictures and night vision are in the visual spectrum. So it's pointless to do this part of the spectrum at all, but you can use waves that are longer in the spectrum to collect data in different ways. You can resolve very large things with the very large wavelength of the GPR, because you can have very long wavelengths depending on the antenna you choose. But also, if you want to resolve something like a person, you have to have a small enough wavelength to resolve that person. It can't be this long, you'll just miss them. But too short, and it's not useful at all. And then you have, I just got really confused with what I said about attenuation earlier. If I was backwards on that, I may have been. But okay, so visual light, there's normal pictures and also night vision. When people say night vision, they don't normally mean they don't mean infrared. So I have 63 clocks. Does FLIR work using infrared? It does. And so FLIR had its beginning in, it's the forward-looking infrared, and that's because there was in the military a peripheral type of the infrared came in a different way longer ago. And so when the FLIR company started, their big thing was the forward-looking infrared. But now that's kind of just what is like the standard. And so yeah, FLIR is really just the company now. And when you say that, it's everybody knows what you're talking about, but really the forward-looking aspect of that's just what it is now, and it's not a different way of doing it, really. But yeah, that is thermal. So that's not using visual light at all. You don't need visual light at all for infrared, which is, it can be pitch dark and you'll still see a person. It's also nice for the firefighters use it because the infrared wave can actually go through smoke. And so if you have like a smoke-filled doorway and there's a person standing right there and they're like trapped in a house that's on fire, maybe the fireman can't see the person visually because of all the smoke, but their infrared will pick them up, no problem. And so that's why they use infrared. That's why firefighters use it, because it's a different waveform than the visual light. And oh, thank you, Sharon. This is fascinating information. I hope so. Yes, so I might have said the attenuation wrong earlier. You can get further into the ground with longer wavelengths. The shorter wavelength stuff that is, when I did GPR, like, so if I was looking in wavelengths that are in this area, the longest wavelengths, I could get really deep into the ground, but I couldn't resolve things really well. But I could, when I had slightly shorter wavelengths, it can resolve things better, but it dissipates quicker. I miss what Gail, fracture on your right pelvis, heating pass. Oh, I'm sorry, Gail. Feel better. I don't want anybody to be hurt. I don't want Gail to be hurt or anybody. Everybody get better. Oh, speaking of hurt, Christina's in here. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that her birthday is on the 21st. And also Amber's birthday is on the 25th. And I already had my birthday in September, and everybody missed it because I didn't tell anybody. Okay. Yeah, and so night vision, though, is not thermal. I'm credentialed in ultrasound, so I do dig pulse wave frequency. Ooh. When I have to go for an ultrasound every once in a while, and I like to talk about my days in seismic data, because it looks a lot like the screens of the ultrasound, because they are both they're sound waves. So yeah, night vision, it is actually reliant on visible light. So when there's night vision versus thermal, they're saying that night vision is the one that you need to have a little bit of light, because it actually is just a light amplifier, and it's not actually receiving other information than what the visual light can give it. So night vision needs to have something like the moon or streetlights or some source of light. But thermal works just fine without it. And so yeah, I'm working in just the transverse waves. Why did that not go to the next? Oh yes. So I know that when the submersible, everybody was talking about, well, why can't you communicate? I get distracted with the conversation. Hope you guys don't mind, because I do enjoy watching you guys talk. And the gopher issue, yes, was discussed with me. And, I mean, I may or may not try to plug my equipment into the ground there to see what happens, because I don't want to do anything to my poor chipmunks in my yard. So, yes, we're working with transverse waves. But the thing about transverse waves is that they work great, except that they cannot travel through water. So Like the GPR, my ERI works great as a complement to GPR because GPR actually attenuates or like it goes away when it hits really wet ground. Like if you hit the water table, you basically see with I know I worked with a 500 megahertz antenna, which is like it's kind of like it can locate graves really well, but it's not like a concrete. It's GPR antenna. It's a little bit meatier than that. I will never say meteor to you guys ever again. But so that when I was using that antenna over an area that was really really wet, everything just disappeared underneath the water table that was at like 4 feet or 6 feet, which kind of was bogus because that's exactly where the people that were supposed to be buried were going to be. But sound waves don't attenuate in water because they aren't transverse. I mean, they have a transverse component, but that's a longer discussion. They're longitudinal, they're compressional, so they just push in front as you. It's like a slinky. If you push a slinky instead of like waving up and down, you push it and you see it ripple forward. That the ripple forward push motion is what they're trying to show in a diagram. That's 2D without any animation. But that does go through water. So that's why doing seismic is and sonar and all that does work really well because you're relying on the wave type that can go through water. If you're relying on a transverse wave to go through water, like you're trying to send a GPR through the water into like the bottom of like that ain't gonna happen because you got these waves and they can't go through water. And that's because like picture a glass filled with water, and if you just magically take that glass away, the water's going to spill everywhere. But if you stick a rock in that glass of water, or if you stick a rock in that glass and you take the glass away, the rock doesn't fall apart, but the water will fall apart. And so that's why waves can travel through rock, because it has a cohesive property to have the particles like remain together, and liquid doesn't have that, and so that's why you can't get a transverse wave through water because it just falls apart. And so, like I said, transverse waves can travel through liquid. And that's why with the when we were talking about the submersible and stuff, and them trying, like, you can't communicate with them with a cell phone or with anything other than the pinging type of text messages. They had a texting system to them, but it was a type of like pinging. It was like a sound method. It was because the sound waves could travel to them, but they couldn't use like a regular cell phone. They couldn't use GPS or anything because you can't get the transverse waves from the electromagnetic spectrum that I was showing you. How do I go back? Yes. So all these waves can't go through that water. So you have radio waves, and so you have the GPS signals and the cell phone signals, which might be the infrared, the radio wave, that kind of area. Those type of communications don't work in the water because of the wavy nature of the signal. It's just it doesn't work. The signal falls apart, and that's why you couldn't communicate with the people in the submersible. But you could communicate with them through the sound pinging, because the longitudinal waves are the push kind of waves. They do go through water. Oh yes, and then I've talked so much about these other types of methods. Does anybody have questions besides me? I hope everybody's having a good time just hanging out too. But yeah, so uh, I'll I'm just gonna say, if anybody has questions, if I miss a question, just put it in again, and I won't be offended. You can even put how many times you tried to show me the question, and I don't care. I'll try to answer it as soon as I see it. So the ERI, that is a different method than the other ones because the electromagnetic stuff, like the radio waves and the infrared and all that, that is created from like a voltage being applied, like a radio antenna at like Kiss FM or what have you as your favorite radio station nowadays. I don't know what the kids are listening to, but whatever radio they're listening to, that radio wave is sent from the transmitter because it has a pulse of electricity that's going through it at a certain rate. And so really what my ERI box does is that's got a voltage, so we're not really concerned with the a waveform component with that because we're just looking at straight at that voltage. That's that first part of the whole thing. And how deep can sonar go under dirt, like the creek bed? Oh, yes. Oh, good question. Because so a lot of the sonar methods, like the fish finders or like the straight beam type of sonar, they're intended to be reflected off of the ground surface of like the creek bed, the dirt that's right underneath the water. But there is sub-bottom profilers, and so that's a type of sonar that it does have. It is the type of pinging method with sound, but it's got a higher energy, and so that actually can go into the creek bed, into the dirt. And I've worked with a sub-bottom profiler where I couldn't remember. We imaged a plume of coming out of the middle of the lake. There was like a spring that was creating a plume up. It's called Lulu Lake in Wisconsin, kind of by Eagle, Wisconsin. I think that was the place. Yes. And I can't remember how big that thing was. I think 15 meters, so times 3, we could have imaged with our equipment. But I've gotten several messages, and I sure hope they are. Well. Just so everybody knows, sometimes I get messages really late. Thank you, Copper Horse. Yes, everything was okay. I was just streaming in the wrong stream. I apologize for that. So with that, does anybody have questions about that stuff? I mean, I'm always open to answering questions, so you don't have to like come up with something right now. But otherwise, I will begin my cold case that nobody ever talks about. If anybody else has cold cases that they want to bring up, I know that yesterday there was at least 2 cold cases that were brought up in the chat that I think I've heard of the one case. I don't want to try to pronounce his name and get it wrong. That might be disrespectful. So yeah. So there is some good new research on nerves and healing of nerves. Oh, a lot of this research can be found in information about. Oh, thank you. I think that when it comes to that kind of thing, I think our bodies are much more resilient and much better at healing themselves than like doctors and science has given people credit for. And I think that telling people that they can't do it is the wrong move. But also I can see why you don't want to get sued, so. Okay, David Schwackert. And I apologize if I pronounce his last name wrong. I should know it. And I could have called my grandma to make sure I was saying it right. I think I'm saying it right. Many discussions today because I want to get it right respectfully. And I know my grandma knows like the families in Burlington really well where this took place. I could have called my grandma. But my grandma and I suffer from the same thing, as well as my father. We suffer from a bad case of Midwestern goodbye. And I literally have spent 45 minutes to an hour saying goodbye to my grandma after already a couple hours of conversation. And I did not have time today. I did not have 3 to 4 hours today to ask her this question. And so I am almost like, I really went out of my way to try to make sure this was right. We're pretty sure because it's German. We're German. Christina knows German. Christina knows German. She knows a couple different kinds of German. I don't know. She knows the old one and a new one, or... yeah, so Grandma Strife would have known. But I didn't have 4 hours to call her. So this happened in the town I grew up in before I was born. And I just wanted to share some pictures of David. There he is, and his mother and father. He's in his soapbox derby vehicle. And there's David here with his siblings. And there's Doug. Now this, everybody, every case has real people behind it. And, my family knows Doug from his job, because he is, if you are in southeastern Wisconsin and you need to have your car fixed, you go to Doug in Burlington. I swear, Doug is the best at cars. And my dad had an auto shop, and when he closed down, everything goes to Doug. And so I think that, my dad was awesome at cars, and he trusts Doug with all his cars. And live show idea, interview Grandma about cold cases she remembers from the area when she was growing up. Yeah, because we got that other one from the house down the street from where we grew up, where that woman disappeared and her husband put a new fireplace in the living room. And right after it happened, and it's like this big chimney and stuff for this new fireplace on the side of this tiny house. It seems so unnecessary and weird. With Grandma and Ellie, our grandma in law enforcement. Our grandma was in Gossip Central. And, actually, Great Grandma Miller was the first meter maid in Burlington. And, yeah. So, Grandma's mom, I guess she was. Anyway. But, yeah, and then right down the street, we had a police officer. I can't remember which decade this was. He was shot and killed. And I don't know if they ever saw... I don't know if that's an unsolved or not. I'll have to look that up. Because there's something about that case that makes it even more horrible. It's already horrible, but you know what I mean. And I can't remember if it's because it's unsolved or... How fast do I think the shore rose into the water where Chris and Steve... I would like to see if there's a for the place where Steve and Chris were, to see if different companies and different government agencies do things like they're called digital elevation maps, and sometimes you can get them for free, and they're great because they're already like they're either made by the state or I mean, you don't ever get anything from the feds. Well, I guess the USGS kind of helps sometimes. But you can get these digital elevation maps, which are elevations at like really close space, because it's flown LiDAR data sets, and that, and then there's companies that also fly certain areas with LiDAR and get really detailed digital elevation maps that way. And it would be interesting to compare that area from one LiDAR flight to another. And LiDAR flies more than you think. Sometimes they're not great resolution, but sometimes they're like really detailed. I don't want to guess on the detail, but I mean, like when I did ERI data at 1 meter spacing for the Wisconsin Geological Survey, I could use a digital elevation map and my GPS coordinates from my Garmin, and I could come out with a landscape from my ERI data of a digital elevation map that looked like where I had been. And so my 1 meter spaced data sets came out, like the elevation looked correct with some digital elevation maps. So if you can get really good resolution of these elevations, you can kind of see how things have changed over time, and that would be a really good way to see just like I wouldn't really be worried about the shore erosion so much, since it's in like the thing that concerns me about that and kind of confuses me, because I guess I wasn't there so I don't really understand what it looks like, but since it's in a valley, when you have your general like rain and snow melting and all that, you're gonna get a lot of things coming down valleys into the valley walls into the valleys anyway. And when you have big weather events, you can have even more things like boulders and trees and all that. And so it'd also be important, I think, to look at the what a normal seasonal change would be from like the rain and all that, but also like were there any like really big storm events that could have just brought a whole bunch of stuff in and taken a whole bunch of stuff out. So yeah, the shore erosion, I think in an area like that is a little bit more complicated than just that. But if you can have a campsite that looks the same in over 8 years in the bottom of a valley, then I don't know. I'd have to look at what type of rock and everything we're looking at. That is one thing that really piques my interest about this. So good question. Did you survey the area, or does it have to be the for the Gale? Do you mean did I survey that area, or does it have to be the state? What survey? The LiDAR survey or the ERI? Because like LiDAR is so expensive that it really has to be the state or a company that's being paid by the state or another company. Or and I did do the ERI for the state of Wisconsin. That was my job for a while. So I did the data collection, but then I also, if it's like state-owned data set, like it's ours. Like unless we did have trouble with a couple counties paid for data sets, and they wanted because they paid for the data set for their county, and it wasn't like run for like a specific state project with like the USGS or something like that. It kind of like the ownership kind of got a little weird, and it was, you kind of had to rent it then. The ownership of data sets, because it's so expensive to collect it. But a lot of times, if it's like government stuff, it's like we already own it because of like we should already own it because of taxpayer money. Sometimes you got to pay for it. It's find out if they have it and then try to figure out how to get it. You can always try to go around by going through at least east of the Mississippi, the state geological surveys. You can probably get around it. Especially if you ever want a data set like that, you gotta go to Steve Mall at the Wisconsin Geological Survey. He's awesome at that kind of thing. Okay, so I think I didn't miss anybody. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. Top of the art LiDAR was employed in the initial search for him. From military in Montana, nothing but... Well, so the LiDAR that, like, I would be familiar with is more of, from what I understand, the LiDAR itself would be the mapping tool. It's the really close pinging of the ground to get the elevation. Like, LiDAR, from my understanding, would be to resolve small things, but it's such a expensive process, and if you try to do it in order to see a child, that would have to be a very high resolution data set. I feel like, are you sure if that was LiDAR or would that have been thermal? Because I can totally see state-of-the-art thermal being used completely for this. I also could see LiDAR being used to see if there was any weird things that happened to the ground. If they thought that something nefarious had happened and there had been a hole dug or something, if you had a good resolution LiDAR, you could see a depression in the ground then. But you're always right. So now I feel like I shouldn't question you ever. Do they monitor the rock movement into the water, like tons of rocks, etc.? There are erosion methods. You can monitor rock movement into water. There's creep detectors, which there's so many jokes about Steve and Chris with creep detectors. But I just can't form the right joke. There's just too many. But they're creep sensors, and they're like metal stakes that you put really far into the ground, and then they're like digitally you can see the movement of the ground slowly that way. If you're looking at like slow erosion, they have that on the Lake Michigan, where they have a bunch of houses that are in peril right now because the ground is being eroded and they're like really high up and everything, and all the cliff on the side by Lake Michigan is being eroded away, and they want to see the movement of the ground. I mean, basically just to see how quick these houses are going to collapse at this point. But yeah, that's a good question, like, because they do monitor in the way that they monitor if they're moving, how fast they're moving per year or per whatever rate of time that you're looking at. And then you can calculate how much rock is moving that way. And you can look at the change in that over time from different conditions and all of that. And so you could do that in some cases. In the case like a creek in a mountainous area, though, I don't know how you would do, like, because I'm just picturing larger scale, like, boulders coming down and stuff like that, but I wasn't really there, so you could look at the creep of the soil too, towards the creek for that. Or there's also, you can just stick like something in the ground or in the water. Like if you just stick a metal thing into the creek and you measure the distance from the shore and the water depth and all of that, and you come back and like all of a sudden your stick isn't in water anymore. It's like in like solid ground. You know that the creek's changed, and so that's, I mean, simple things like that too. It was a kind of thermal imaging. I get lost in this kind of technology. Anyway, it was absolute top quality equipment. Well, that's good. And especially if, I do think it would have been thermal and not LiDAR, just because of the cost and stuff. But I also would commonly get those two things mixed up. But the LiDAR is imaging usually, actually, I don't know the waveform that is used for LiDAR all of a sudden. That might be infrared also. But the thermal imaging would be, LiDAR is done because you're sending and receiving information, like you're sending a waveform and you're receiving it back. But the thermal imaging would just be picking up the waveforms coming off of the person. So LiDAR is an active source because it's actively sending and receiving, but thermal is passive because it's just waiting until it sees that, until the area around it produces what it's looking for. And so the thermal imaging, especially with the top of the art, like that's really good to know. He's so tiny though, and it can't see, like, if you can't visually see through like a tree or something like that, you won't be able to see what's on the other side of that tree with thermal either. But I'm sure that they scanned, they gridded with that thermal on there. I'm sure they used a very, I can't think of the word all of a sudden. I'm sure they swept the area really in a highly dense manner. So especially if he was moving around, you would have seen something, or just if he was standing still from a different angle, you would have seen him. So it's good to know that they used that at the time. What are your thoughts about dowsing? You want to hear a fun story about dowsing? Okay, I will tell you, I'm interested in this. Only because when I did that House in Between Two paranormal thing, and I will do some paranormal shows because I am interested in life phenomena, because I do believe that somehow characteristics in the earth or rock can create at least the environment to produce some weird stuff, especially if we're talking about like quartz. You can record a lot of information on, and so like, I don't know, what are we recording on the ground and stuff like that. So I find paranormal stuff to be very interesting. And I did do the House in Between Two with Steve from Ghost Hunters and Robot Ninja Production. They're awesome. And Robot Ninja Production just came out with another little documentary about a different place. So that's exciting. But so I did have some weird things happen with dowsing where, like, I gave it a try because Alice, the homeowner of the house that's supposed to be haunted, she did I might as well just say it. There's something weird going on in that house, and I don't know how much I believe that like my grandma could come back and haunt my kitchen cabinets, but I do believe something weird is going on. And there's so many people that think that ghosts are real. There's so many people that think that this stuff that there's so many people that have experience with this stuff. We should really take that seriously. And so I don't know, I really want to believe that there's all this stuff out there, and dowsing kind of falls into that because I used it at the House in Between Two house, and I got a weird electrical charge thing in my hands, and my hands had that, like, like when you wear an old ring or something, you get that, like, you get that green on your fingers and stuff. I got, like, that weird like old jewelry, like green thing on my hands, and nobody else got that, and it was just like the weirdest experience. So I thought that was really neat. I also I found it interesting that the other geophysicist at the Wisconsin Geological Survey had dowsing rods in his office because he was given them by a farmer who really believes in finding water through dowsing. And this guy, he's super proud of his dowsing rods. And I went around the office and I used them to find the losers. And I ended up at 2 offices just repeatedly with these dowsing rods. And so that was my fun experience with that. But didn't find water, found a couple losers in their office. But I do think that there's something interesting with it. If you have dowsing rods, like that would be like when we go magnet fishing, like I'm never making fun of any of this stuff, just so you guys know, like, because something weird is going on. And I want to know what it's all about. And so many people think dowsing rods can really work for like finding water and other things like that. So I really want to know what that's all about. Yes, creep detector is the opposite of a stud finder. Yes. Maybe I made a big mistake trying to remember the equipment was a military helicopter equipped with the best equipment. Oh yeah, no, like LiDAR and thermal, they're easily, they're very similar in lots of ways, and so I used to mix them up all the time. So, but I mean, maybe they did use it would just LiDAR would have been expensive, and I don't think it would have given the information that I think that the infrared would have given you information a lot quicker. That would have been a lot more valuable. But I can look into it. Oh, he located 2 water sources, which became wells by dowsing. Yeah, like I really want to know the dowsing stuff. Like it seems to work, and I mean that's really interesting to me because I've heard, like when seriously talking about dowsing, I've heard more people talk positively about it than to brush it off, and so I should do a whole video on that because I mean I find that kind of stuff to be interesting because we don't understand it, but just because we don't understand it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it doesn't work. Like it just means we don't get it yet. You don't think that the ghost shows are very accurate and that's being kind? I'll tell you what though. When I did the house in between 2, there is something weird going on in that house, and I'll tell you what. I was when I was out. Okay, I don't know if anybody's seen that. But when I was in that backyard, well, I don't know if everybody wants to hear my story about. Does everybody want to hear my very quick story about the house in between 2 thing I saw in the backyard? Because I feel like it's a special story, and I don't want to just bring it up without everybody being on board of wanting to hear it. Paranormal, now you're speaking my language. Yeah, I'm definitely doing some of that stuff because just because we don't understand that science doesn't mean that it's like we just don't understand it yet. Yes, Alice is amazing. She's one of the nicest people I've ever met. Yeah. It might work based upon the electric field, biochemical energy within the person connecting it to energy in the ground. I do believe in energy from people. Like, I don't really know, like, what's that called? All of a sudden I can't think of what it's called. The people that work with energy, and you can become a person that, I can't think of what they're called all of a sudden. But you can go see them if you like have a lot of negative energy on you or something. I think that's very yes. Chevy Metal, losers. It was really a funny story, but you'd have to kind of know the people that I was using the dowsing rods to find. It's more of a fun story for me to remember. Because the Steve Mull guy that is so helpful and so kind about the digital elevation maps, I pretended to keep finding him with the dowsing rod. And you are a believer of dowsing, batting 1,000. Steve, I honestly don't know. Are we bananas right now? So we had to start saying bananas because in Texas, because I couldn't tell. Like, when we needed to be serious, we needed to have a safe word because everybody kept joking so much and we couldn't trust anybody anymore, so we had to say bananas. And I don't know if you're bananas right now, Steve. Are you seriously bananas about dowsing? I kept thinking of Dior fell in the water, maybe dirt was knocked loose and covered the child so no one would see him. I believe in spirits. If you guys all want to hear, first of all, the story about what I saw in the backyard, speaking of spirits, but I believe that if they had, they should have already, they should have searched pretty quickly, and if there had been an event in that creek that knocked loose enough dirt to cover a child, and they couldn't be found, I'm not sure. People are asking about the dogs. Were there dogs? Did they have dogs, search dogs go there? I'm pretty sure that there was a huge discussion about this. Anyway, I don't think that if he fell into the water, especially after looking at their video, I don't even think that it looked really reasonable for him to get swept under anything, because if the dad said that the water was so shallow that the minnows were stuck in certain areas, that water wasn't very high in the first place. It was, and so you're not really, you don't have the available energy and stuff to wedge underneath things with a child. I don't think they just kind of like get piled up on the side. Like, that sounds terrible, but and then I don't think that they would have missed a high energy event enough to be able to cover that child. So I think that in the amount of time because they started searching for him so quickly, I think they would have noticed had there been a fresh dirt fall into the creek. And that creek is so small. I think that if there was debris that fell into the creek enough to cover him, I think that would have altered the creek enough that they would have seen that easily. Because then you're also talking about displacing that water from that debris. And so, whoops, my chat just ran away. I started talking about David and we got stuck, so I haven't mentioned Miranda yet about, I haven't gone into what happened about him yet. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. The main thing was the search dog's beeline from the camp to the reservoir. Thank you, Anna. Also, I want to put these up, but I was told I could double click on them and they go up on my screen, and that doesn't seem to be the case. So I really want to be able to put your comments and stuff up on the screen, but I'm going to have to figure out how to do that later. Okay, so those dowsing rods cross on their own, and I can't explain why, but they do it. Yeah, I have, when I was at that house, and I borrowed Alice's, I did experience that. I think I'm not getting, my messages are stuck. Cool. Maybe if I just, there we go. I just closed the screen and opened it again, because that's how science works. Oh no, I missed a lot more than I thought. It froze and I did not realize that. Oh no. If I missed anybody's question, feel free to ask again, because I just got a whole dump of stuff that I didn't know was here. Oh yes, everybody should watch The House in Between too. because I spent 2 days on that and they only used 8 minutes of me. But they said that they'd use more later. Anyway, they said that they were very happy with me, so I was happy that they were happy. Gail, I believe there are a whole lot of things go on around us we don't know or see, like those waves you were talking about. Yeah, indeed. Like, I'll do a whole thing about paranormal stuff pretty soon because it does interest me a lot. Oh yeah. So Anna, I believe in life beyond this, and that those who have passed are close people. Don't question that mothers have psychic knowledge about their kids. Same sort of thing. Something we don't understand. Yeah, I mean, I believe enough that I mean, I'm open to the idea of that woman when we first moved into this house, the first or second night we were here, I heard a woman crying from our dining room. And it wasn't coming from outside, it was coming from our dining room area. I heard it twice. I sat up to listen for it again and it happened again. And I'm not gonna say that there's somebody right outside my freaking window crying at 1 o'clock in the morning. Because we were sleeping in the living room at the time because we had just moved here, and I'm open to the idea that that was something else. So, but I just want to know why. Why did it happen? Copper horse with a diaper found up in a tree. Yeah, they said that the grandma went out there and found that. I'd like to know more about whatever became of that. Those rough mountain streams can have cut banks where spring runoff gouges out the bank under the grass. Sometimes those thin bits can collapse, not generally a big deal. Yeah. The fluvial geomorphology stuff, very interesting, especially with the meandering streams and all that. It can get really interesting with the oxbow lakes and all that. Okay, so we're talking about National Treasure? Okay, it's Compact Earth. I think I've missed a couple. Raptors will attack larger game, but they can't fly away with it. Yeah, that's a... Oh, don't even... Like, so, yeah, that's the whole idea that he was carried away by something. I don't think that there's anything that could lift a child as heavy as he was, but... I mean, I'm not going to mix Dior with... I mean, I just have a fascination with the idea of Thunderbirds and stuff, but we're not going to do that. We won't mix those two things together. But I don't think he could have, by anything that they know that lives there, I don't think he could have gotten taken away. But I mean, I'm sure that there's been specialists that have actually come in and talked about that with investigators. Lala, hello. I hope I said your name okay. I'm having a hard time reading on the screen as it scrolls really quick. Okay. Oh, Ruckus says Steve is a national treasure? I mean... But now we have to start defining what a national treasure is. I just don't even know what to say about that. He's something. So, yeah. Maybe I'll save the story about the house in between two and what I saw, because I'm not lying. In the documentary, that's true. Like, I'm never gonna lie about that stuff. I've worked too hard to get where I am to start lying about something silly. So, if you watch The House in Between Two, what happened to me, it totally 100% happened to me. And I'll talk about that. Maybe I'll do a Halloween episode or something. Or like every day will be Halloween. I don't even care. Okay. Oh, there was a fake video of a toddler being lifted by a golden eagle. It's good to know that that was fake. I'm glad to know that. Okay. I will get back to David Schwackert. And I will, I definitely hope that is how you say it. I have to ask my grandma. But, I have to go back to here. Okay. So, like, yeah, what I was saying, going back to him. So there's David, and there's Doug, the guy that my family kind of knows right now. And then they were surrounded by sisters. So they must have just had a great time. I'm good with one sister. I don't think I could have taken four. He was born August 2nd, 1956. And he was murdered on New Year's Day, 1973. In the early hours. And he was just 16 years old, and he was a junior at Burlington High School, which is also where I went. And so to give you an idea of where we're talking about, the mitten of Wisconsin is right here. And so southeastern Wisconsin, it's close to the border, but not quite. I'm looking up at I didn't set up my other monitor, so I'm still looking up at my TV for this. Yeah, so this all happened in Burlington, so southeastern Wisconsin area. And so this is today what Google Earth says that Burlington, Wisconsin looks like. And it was a lot smaller back then. Like, everything built up, and there's Highway 36 up here. And there's like a Walmart there. I'll tell you what, when they opened Walmart, they had the high school choir singing, and they had all these elderly ladies crying because everybody was so excited we got to be part of the real world. So that's how small we were. And that happened when I was in high school when we got the Walmart? I don't know. Middle school or high school? No, I don't think it was middle school. Maybe it was. Anyway, so we just started building up over there. I mean, this place wasn't that big, but it looks bigger now. And so this is the area, this is really where the old town Burlington was. And yes, crying over Walmart, I kid you not. And now our downtown is dead, so other people are crying. So really, Burlington comes from this area. This is where the old town Burlington is, and it kind of spread out from there. And so the older stuff from 50 years ago, it all happens around this area, because Burlington really didn't develop until very recently. And so when we're looking at this area, if you zoom in on like the Fox River area, it's going to be like right here. Yeah, because that's the big Veterans Terrace, and it happened right across from where that was. And so at this corner, there was a gas station, and why can I not think of the name of the, not Clark. What kind of gas station was that? Anyway, yes, the Clark station. Okay, it says right there. I wrote it down because I knew this would happen. And so it was at this corner. There wasn't as many things around here. Like this wasn't here. What's that restaurant called? It's a chain restaurant. That wasn't there. This place was desolate. We got Adrian's ice cream. Was Adrian? Christina, was Adrian? When did Adrian start? Because their ice cream is fantastic. So I'm not sure how much of these houses and this building. But definitely, I think the ball diamond may have been there. This wasn't there. These things weren't there. It wasn't as packed, full of things, and there was a gas station there. And so, what happened was, on New Year's Eve, I think it may have just turned to New Year's Day, Officer Kubath, Christina tried to tell me how to pronounce it right, and then I messed up. There was an officer, and he came to the station, and he realized that there wasn't an attendant there. And I just thought of the question, so it started in the 60s, so Adrian's was there, so the ice cream place was there. But they would be closed. It was New Year's Eve, and it was after midnight. So it was New Year's Day. An officer stopped by, and he noticed that there wasn't anybody there. And what had happened was David had taken this night's shift from somebody else who wanted the night off, and he said he'd take it. He was 16 years old, and he was at this gas station alone. And a question I had that I just thought of, and I forgot to ask my mom to ask my dad this. My dad had been in Burlington all his life. My mom moved there later on. So my dad and my grandma would know this question. Did they do, back in the 70s, the early 70s, was there an attendant there to do the gas for them? Would he have had to walk out and service the cars, or did they do that themselves? Because I'm almost feeling like his job would have been to walk outside and all that. Anyway, so he was there alone, really late at night, and he was there because somebody else had asked him to take the shift for that night. And when the officer arrived, there was nobody there, and I'm not really sure that I haven't seen there's not a lot of articles about this, and I'm not even sure what the officer saw. He knew something was wrong, besides just the fact that the kid was missing. And so what happened was around 8 o'clock in the morning, David had been missing for a couple hours, and a farmer was looking around his property, and I hate to start throwing up suspects, but David was found pretty quickly by a farmer on the farmer's property, and I'm just saying I'm glad he found him. I have no other reason to suspect this farmer except the fact that was a really quick discovery. And so that's not really fair, because that farmer could be a very nice person. Anyway, so what happened was he was kidnapped and driven from the gas station up the highway to this area. Oh, did I not? Oh. I had an issue where my screen froze, and I guess that is when I lost the video of where he was. I lost the slide of the location he was found. Anyway, Sorry about that. There should be an extra slide in here that I definitely totally made. But may have been lost when my screen froze. And, but there is across from where you enter for the Walmart that's now there. There's a Taco Bell, which was definitely not there. And that is, behind the Taco Bell is where they said that, like, the Taco Bell wasn't there, but behind where the Taco Bell is today is where they found him. And I have heard that they found a coin, like a coin dispenser thing, coin changer thing with him, like one of the money collecting things that they had at the gas station. They found one of those, they found a bloody towel, and they found his wallet. But I think those three things were not found with him. They were found a mile away, and I don't know where that mile away is. Because it's very hard for me to find information. And some of the articles, you have to get a subscription to get into them, but it's just going to say the same thing as the other ones. There's not a lot of information. But the Racine County Sheriff is the one that's handling this case, and they would have specifics about things like that. And so what would be very interesting is there's this bloody towel is one of the three things that was found during the search for answers about this. And I would like to, it was sent to the state lab for investigation and analysis, and I can't believe after 50 years the state is still going to have that. But I would love the state to still have that towel, but I would go to Vegas betting they don't. So he was, it looks like there's no drag marks or anything from like a car. He didn't walk there because it was far enough that he couldn't have walked, and it was a deserted, it was like a really, it was just a highway road. There would have been cars everywhere, so he must have been driven, and he was shot twice, and they never found the gun. And so he must have been taken to that field and then shot at that field. And then the coin changing machine, or I can picture what it is. It's not the register thing. It's the other thing that holds coins, I think. That and the bloody towel and his wallet were found separately from him. And that would have been a mile away somewhere, is what they said. And I've heard somewhere that I cannot find anymore, but I've definitely heard that the highway from Burlington to Milwaukee was having a string of robberies at gas stations at that time. And I'm not sure if any of these other robberies led to kidnappings and murders, but it was definitely something that was considered back in the day, that it was somebody who looked like they were from Milwaukee, because it was a string of robberies up the highway towards Milwaukee. And so if that's the case, I mean, it just looks like it's not targeted at him. He wasn't even supposed to be there that night. It's just like an opportunity, but like, I think he got $60, the person that killed him. And yeah, he was 16 years old. And he was a big brother for $60. And it's been 50 years. And they still don't know who did that. And that was my cold case that I would like to talk about. I can't find my mouse. But I'm not sure if anybody else has a... Oh, my mouse is disappearing when I'm trying to... Yes, my touch screen saved the day. Okay. The good old days when a gas station was a service station that pumped gas, washed windows, and checked oil a long time ago. Yeah, so, oh, New Jersey, currently, is the only place now. Oregon started making people pump their own gas now if they want. And so New Jersey is the only one left that doesn't do it. That was a big deal the other day because everybody had to learn how to pump their own gas because apparently nobody from Oregon gets out. I don't know. Why do I remember our dad telling us everyone suspected some group from Milwaukee? Like they were driving up and down the highway out of Milwaukee robbing places, but I could be hallucinating. No, I mean, Dad may be the place where I got that. I'm sure that if we look into old newspaper articles, stuff that I can never log into, but you can, we might be able to find something like that. I don't know. It'd be nice for figure out who did this, but I just feel like he wasn't targeted. It was just opportunity, and I mean, they probably weren't even from around Burlington. And it's just so long ago, and there's no way anything is saved at the state lab. It's just like you just really need somebody to like have a deathbed confession or something at this point, and I just don't see anybody who could be callous enough to do this would have enough feelings to try to resolve something like this before they go to hell. So oh, Christina's talking about bald eagles sounding like seagulls. Of course she's talking about bald eagles. Sharon, you'd rather have your gas pump for you? Yeah. I mean, if my husband's in the car, he's going to do it. Yeah, North Carolina, there's probably, I don't think anywhere really has, if it's not New Jersey now, you just gotta kind of do it yourself. 41 miles is way outside. So the, if you mean like, Steve, for the 41 miles, like Milwaukee, I'm just saying, like, I think that the people who did it are connected with Milwaukee, and at that point, like, it's going to be so hard because they thought that people were robbing up and down Highway 36, or what I think Highway 36 was Highway 36 back then. There was so many gas station robberies that they thought it might have been connected to what happened because it was a gas station robbery. I'm not sure if any other ones were violent, but they assumed that group had come from Milwaukee because of just the highway that was that went along, and Milwaukee's no good sometimes. But I'd have to find where I found that. But like, if there were a lot of robberies up Highway 36, it was like, I mean, it was the way to get to Milwaukee. And so between Burlington and Milwaukee, would be a couple gas stations. There's this small towns at that point. There's no big towns. So I could imagine it would be easy for people to. It would be an idea that people would pick Highway 36 to do that. Also, I mean, 36 goes all the way to Lake Geneva, and that Lake Geneva can have quite a history of no good. But I mean, that's just why I brought that up, because it has been mentioned. But he only went from down by Veterans Terrace. I had another slide of this, and my PowerPoint froze, and I thought I lost everything I didn't save. It was real bad news, and then I guess it didn't save the one slide. It was definitely here. Just up the highway a little bit to the Taco Bell. That they moved the town line, just so they could fit Walmart and Taco Bell in there, and so it's technically in Burlington now, but it wasn't. This area wasn't in Burlington back then. It's I think I've heard I could have Google Mapped it. I was under the impression it was 3 miles, and then somebody was talking about 6 miles. I don't think it's 6 miles. I think it's more like 3 miles. He was taken 3 miles outside of town and then shot. So it wasn't all the way to Milwaukee. It keeps on disappearing my mouse. Okay. In David's case, is there any DNA or similar victims with the same MO in the area? Maybe he was eliminated to not identify the I mean, the only the best place, like fingerprints on the coin changer thing, they were talking about might have existed, or DNA on that bloody towel might have existed, but that went to the state lab, and nobody knows if they still have it, and then they were looking at the robberies, but I don't know if they were violent or not. So, but I don't think that he was. I don't know why he was. I mean, I don't think they have any idea why he was murdered. Can I say that word on here? I don't know the rules. I hear people don't want to say that word on YouTube, so too late. Because he was, and it sucks. Maybe the offender thought it was the tenant who was originally supposed to work the shift. Yeah, that's a theory. I'm not sure who the original attendant was. I don't know if that ever came out. I assume it did, because in '73 they didn't really care what they talked about. So I assume somewhere is the name. It could have been targeted at that person, but I think that a 16-year-old kid, and I don't think it was a 16-year-old boy, that was like, you would have been able to tell the difference. I'm pretty sure like that was ruled out, because like that person, I think, also was in general not likely to be that person just I don't think it looked like that person had enemies or had any reason for anybody to, like, they couldn't find any reason for anybody to do this to that person, I don't think. And also I think that person's characteristics were different enough. It might have been a woman, if I remember right, that was supposed to have worked that shift, and so you could have told the difference. So I don't think, unless it was they were too far in when they realized it was the wrong person, but I don't think that they ever found a reason why that person would have been targeted. Yes, Christina, a couple of miles. Yeah, I think it was 3. Somewhere I heard 6. Back in the 50s, Charles Starkweather abducted and killed a gas station attendant. Charles, like money to buy a small item, would have never been solved if Starkweather hadn't killed 10 more people. Oh, where was that? Yeah, you misunderstood the reasons for my circles. I apologize. I hope it's clear now. It's just, all my circles would have made sense if I hadn't been missing that one slide that I totally did make. That did not appear, and I think it's because my stuff definitely froze at that point. I thought it was there. I know the feeling. I lost my childhood best friend in a home invasion. They were trying to rob him. That's awful. I'm very sorry. Yeah, it's awful to lose somebody, but then to lose somebody by the hands of somebody else when they didn't have, like natural causes didn't take, like, the person. It sucks already if it's natural causes, but like when it's like somebody did it, that's awful. And then when it's done violently, it's like, that's just awful. Like, you can grieve, like, when it's natural causes, when a loved one dies. But, man, to know that it was done in, like, a way like this is just upsetting even more. 6 miles is within the norm. It was just a robbery. Why take him 3 miles away to kill him? Yeah, if we knew, like, maybe that would help. Karen Lee's looking at his find grave. Both his parents passed with no answers. Yep, that's true. They did. And I think he is buried with them. Yeah, it was so senseless. It was very senseless, and he was so young, 16. He was a junior in high school, and he had a great family. And it's just, why? And that's like, I just want. I would love to have somebody be held responsible, but it's been 50 years, man. Do you remember the male skeleton found in a chimney wearing a dress in Madison? Believed still unsolved. What? Really? I did not know this. I will have to look that up. The other attendant was young also. Yeah, Miranda. For some reason I want to say the other attendant was gonna be a girl. I just remember, like, at least in a way, like, if I had to think about it to comfort myself, it's like they saved somebody else from having to go through it, and like, so they're a hero. Like, David's a hero because he saved somebody else's life, and that's all the good I got from this. Usually in robberies they would just do the person right there, yeah. Maybe he was. Was it? Oh no, I don't think he was Miranda Lee. I don't think he was S.A. Or at least I haven't heard. I didn't hear that. But it just seemed like he was just, like, kidnapped, and then he was just told to get out of the car and then shot, kind of thing. I don't think it was any. I haven't heard anything else about S.A. But I mean, that's something that definitely maybe just wasn't mentioned in the news articles or whatever, and the Racine County Sheriff would have that information because they're saying that they're looking for more information about this case and that they're trying to investigate it. Again, they've, like, reopened this for tips and for other, like, anything that could help them, and so I'm sure they have all the information. The Racine County Sheriff would have all the information that's available right now, so maybe he's got that too. But from what I know, it wasn't an essay. It's been a long time. That's what got me into true crime. The detective had nothing to go by, and they managed to catch them. Oh. I'm glad they caught them. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, like, maybe they just didn't mention it in the thing. From what I could tell, that why they took him so far away was just completely unclear. That is awful. Haven't heard that one. This antisocial behavior has to stop. Treat children with kindness and love. Yeah, this was 73, and it's only, everything's only gotten. I just assume everything's only gotten crazier. I don't know. Yeah. So I'd have to. I haven't seen anything in the papers about it, Miranda Lee. I'm just going through the chat. But that would be something. Like a cold case, like. Investigator would definitely want to ask the Racine County Sheriff if that was the case, but from what I know, that probably would have been something that would have been said in the reason why he was taken, and because they couldn't figure out why, and there was there was nothing suspicious about his clothes from what I heard, but there wasn't a lot of information, so maybe that was just left out. You need to head out, Christina. Oh yeah, you're going. Okay, fine, bye. I'll see you at some point. Safe travels. Oh, did I say that too? Yes, the person who found his body does seem suspicious, and I thought that right away. Randomly, you were correct. I thought that sounded I thought that I was if you knew of this area, and if I could have gotten that up on my PowerPoint, it's not just nothing's around, would have been around, but there's like the Fox River right there, and just like this area that he would have been like, why was that guy walking around at 8 a.m. to come across his body? That just seems so spectacularly convenient for this whole thing, and so that I do not like. I mean, it seems reasonable that it could have just been people robbing stuff up Highway 36, but I don't like how quickly he found him like that, because it just seems like the place you wouldn't be looking so early in the morning on the morning of New Year's Day. Anna says make sure to get out in the sun a few hours a day. Near infrared spectrum can heal a lot of issues. Best wishes, Christina. I will let her know if she didn't see that. Oh, okay. Thank you, Didus, for the Madison link. And then we got, yes, about the skeleton. I will definitely have to look at that. Less than 4 hours after he was reported missing. Yeah. Right? It just... But I don't want to, like... Maybe that person's a very nice person. It just was a coincidence, but... I mean... Doesn't Joe Kenda say, like, I don't believe in coincidences or something? Like... I'm just going to totally Joe Kenda on this and be like, nah. Like, that's weird. Did they get DNA? I mean, it was 73, so they're not going to really be looking for DNA anyway. But they did take the 3 items, and I mean, he was found too. They did take what they thought was evidence and send it to the state lab, which is where I really believe it went to be lost and then disposed of, because I don't think that the state lab would still have it after 50 years, because it just was the 50th anniversary. But I don't want to, like, I mean, maybe they have it. I don't want to be, like, jerky towards them. Maybe they're a great lab, but I just can't imagine after 50 years. I mean, look at Amber's case. Like, police department couldn't handle all her records for not that long at all. Like, how could a state agency have handled, in Wisconsin, have handled something for 50 years and not lost it? Like, I just don't trust anybody with that kind of stuff anymore. Do I know if the farmer had animals, cattle, etc.? From what I understood, it was like just a walk. And from where I believe that, from the description that I've given, if you look at the Taco Bell in Burlington, Wisconsin, there's the Fox River. It's like just this like tiny little area where he would have been. And like you'd have to take out the buildings, because the buildings that weren't there, like the Menards and all that, wasn't there. That would have been like a field, but it would have been like this little finger of a field, like on the other side of the Fox River with the highway right there. It's weird that he checked that section, and I just don't think his animals would have been there, because it's just I just don't know why he would have been there, because it just seems like an out of the way portion of your property to go check on New Year's Day morning. Yeah, DNA wasn't invented back in the 70s, yeah. So, and I don't think they would have been. So obviously they weren't going to be. Should phrase that different. They wouldn't have been saving things for DNA, but if they would have saved stuff that could have had DNA done on it now, I don't think it's gonna be found. I don't know why I'm playing with my hair like that. I'm playing with my hair like that because I'm upset. Because this is a case that should have gotten a lot more attention a lot sooner. And I really feel like if this happened to him, like, because clearly it wasn't, like, he wasn't even supposed to be there. This totally looks not targeted, and he had no reason to be targeted. He was just like a nice kid. He was not a troubled youth. He was a good kid that took somebody's ship. And so I just believe there's got to be other victims of this same person out there. Like, this wasn't just a one-time kind of deal where the person just decided to get evil one night. And so this should have just been a bigger story somewhere, but it just hasn't, because there's just been a lot of terrible stories to talk about. I guess his just got lost. I just wonder, because if he had animals, it wouldn't be unusual to be out early tending to them. I grew up on a farm. Yeah, that's a good point. And it would be a weird section of your yard, but maybe. And that's a good point. You can assume, like, why was he out there? It was like maybe there was a legit reason for him to be out there. Items are typically submitted to state labs by investigating local agencies after lab work. It is returned to local agencies for safekeeping. Oh, I did not know that. Thank you, Steve. I still believe that everybody lost everything. Oh, God. I hope it wasn't given back to Burlington Police Department. We don't even have a 911 in our area anymore. We can't handle... Okay. Fun fact about Burlington Police Department. They built the police department on top of a natural spring. An active natural spring. They have a sub pump in the basement because they've decided to build it on top of a natural spring. We are not capable of keeping data. We're doing... Yeah. I worry about this now even more. I hope Racine County just took it, because they're doing it now because we don't really have a police department anymore. We studied about DNA in the 70s, but it wasn't used to solve crimes. Yeah. Okay, Sharon. Yeah, I'd have to refresh myself on the history of, like, when all of that, how that developed and when. I haven't looked at that for a while. But, yeah, I know it hadn't been used until, I don't know. When was it accepted, I guess, into, in the 90s at some point, I think. Anyway, back then, it wasn't a consideration. Just saw a lion catch some kind of gopher and eat it on travel show on TV. Ew. Then who found the body claimed he heard about the crime on The Wire. It was handled by Racine County. Okay. I don't know why I'm missing some of this information. I read the articles I could find to refresh myself. Because, I'd heard about this. And so he went out purposely looking for this kid. And it was always handled by the Racine County. But that's what I don't think I'm going to ever have any updates for you guys on this. I hate to sound like, but I could always try to find out. I always give Racine County a call and ask. Nobody ever called me back. I've tried to call about a lot of things to a lot of places. And I literally haven't gotten a call back all summer about anything I've asked anybody about. Thank you for all that information, Miranda. And Sharon. And everybody. see, I thank Steve, but I don't know. Yes, thank you, Steve, for your input. It is greatly appreciated. And I'm bananas about that. And Southern Gal True Crime. I have to delve into your channel a little bit, so everybody should, if you want to check out Southern Gal True Crime. I haven't really gotten to take a look yet, but I am going to. Anna, thank you for everything too. Di, everybody, just thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around and chatting. And with that, ooh, there we go. There's David again. That sucks. I have you intrigued about this case. I know that his sister talks about it with people. She gets interviewed. And I know Doug has been interviewed very recently. And so I was going to ask my dad's opinion on talking to Doug. Because it's just, you know, I don't know how to approach these kinds of things with people, but I would like to try to get something, at least try to get something more about it. And so I know that there could be more, maybe, I don't think that a family would have more information, but the Racine County Sheriff, or Racine, yeah, that'd be a good place to, if you wanted to bug them, that'd be awesome. It's too bad nothing came of the bullet they found at the scene. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is too bad. But yeah. And so, David, we won't forget him. We'll bring him back. Because, you know, 16 years old, man. He's got, like, his family still cares about him, but we just gotta make sure that when his family's no longer around, that he's not forgotten. And so, yeah, then we'll just open it up for other discussion. That was it, okay. So if anybody's got anything else, or if everybody wants to head out, we kind of covered random things. But did this kind of format work okay for everybody? Because I just kind of just wanted, like, every once in a while we do one of these perimeter things, just talk about things that haven't been talked about, talk about any questions people have about anything, just to give everybody a chance just to get out all the sillies in chat, so then other people don't have to be bothered by that. Am I saying freeze again? Or did everybody stop talking? So, yeah. Well, I'm glad. Thank you, Wanda, for responding yes. I thought everybody had gone. So, I'm glad you guys thought this was okay. Because when I was talking with a couple people, it sounds like a good idea, but then you never know how you're really going to do, like, how it's really going to go. Thank you, Di. And okay, I'm glad you liked it too, Sharon. And no problem, Miranda. And yeah, I mean, this is a section for anything else that anybody want to bring anything else up. Thank you, Southern Gal True Crime. And I'm definitely going to check you out. And Gail, thank you, Carolyn. Great chat, great information, much appreciated. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming, you guys. I really appreciate it. Appreciate having all your support. And I even made sure to ask Chris if I was being annoying, and he said no. So, don't know what I would have done if he said yes. I would have been like, well, I like talking to everybody. I don't know what to do. So, I'm so happy that this worked out. Copper Horse, yay, great show, great chat, thank you. And yes, like and subscribe, even though I'm pretty sure everybody here probably already people that subscribe because you guys are all so supportive. Thank you so much. Thank you, Copper Horse. I mean, you have other qualities, Steve. And I also haven't been bugging you lately because I heard I shouldn't bug you lately because you had things going on. And I don't know what that means. So, I hope you appreciate me not bugging you. But I'm really excited for when I can again. But I mean, you got more qualities than those pizza boxes, right? We figured out other things. What was the other thing that you were good at? I can't remember. Yeah, pizza boxes it is, yes. Yes, thank you, everybody. And thank you for my mods. Copper Horse and Die. And did I make... Oh, I forgot to make Christina a mod. Whoops. And then Karen helps me out. Thank you guys so much. And are we all good for tonight? Or did we come up with anything else we want to talk about? Because, I mean, I could make a smooth exit, but I really feel like, this didn't have a smooth entrance, so whatever. Thank you, Copper Horse, for sharing the other channels. It's so nice that I can share other people's channels because everybody shares mine. I'm qualified to eat waffles. Yeah, waffles. I'm pancakes, by the way. Waffles are too heavy. So, I'm kind of more of a pancake person. So, I mean, I just can't use that as a good way to gauge someone's value. Because, I do pancakes. Building campfire. Yeah, I didn't see Steve light any fires intentionally or otherwise. So I would have to be there in person to be able to judge this. How are the ducks? My ducks? I haven't seen my ducks for a while. When Mrs. Ducky went and had her babies, she hasn't been back. And last year she came back in August after she had her babies to hang out at the pond for a couple days. And so did Mr. Duck. And neither of them came back. And so I just assume they're busy with family things and I'll see them next year. But they're wild ducks. I can't snatch them and put little bow ties and knit their babies little sleeping bags and stuff. Although, maybe I thought about these things a couple times. Christina and I really thought about the things I could do if the ducks wanted to come in my sunroom. Like, the little babies, after they hatch, you could make them little crocheted sleeping bags, and that would be so adorable. But yeah, I haven't seen them. Good night, our new bear friend. Thank you for coming. Yeah. How long have I been married? I was in Texas for Amber's case on my 4th wedding anniversary. But my husband and I were okay with that because that was a very important thing to do. And my husband understood. And I understood, so we celebrated later, but 4 years. May 4th of 2019. Yeah, Southern gal. I wanted Mrs. Ducky to bring her babies over to my yard. Because I think I was really under the impression she just went, down the block to make her nest. My yard was just, they have, I guess, a separate lounging area sometimes. And, my pond was just going to be, the lounging area, but not, the place where she makes her nest and stuff, so I thought she was going to be back. So I hope everything's okay. Because now it's getting a little late. I don't think she's coming back because she came back in August last year. But yeah. My Star Wars people. No, I like puns and other things though, so I am a fan of people saying "May the Fourth be with you," but I'm not necessarily a fan of Star Wars. I am a fan of people always like cut in front of me in lines and stuff like that, so I was totally a fan of taking May 4th from like people that wanted the caterer and stuff like that. Like, so I definitely was a fan of planning things well ahead of time so I could have that day. But I'm not really Star Wars. Like, I don't want to sound like a jerk. I have a lot of nerd friends. Like, everybody I know appreciated the date, but like for me personally, I'm not a big Star Wars fan. Does that kind of make it like lame? I don't care. I'm a fan of puns and having a good time, and I knew that May 4th would be good for both of those. Oh, your birthday is May 4th? Cool. Yeah. So, yeah. And I had to trick him into loving me, but it worked. Eventually. Never give up, no matter how annoying you have to be towards a man. He will eventually give up and marry you. Okay. Well, any other questions? Because I'm cool hanging around, but I still want, like, I got nothing else. At some point I'll do a paranormal show, though, and I'll share my story about the house in between. But I think otherwise I'll just say goodnight. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming by. And sorry for the rocky start. Oh my god, it is a Midwest goodbye. But you would know you were from Madison. Oh, I mean Wisconsin. Was that okay? I'm sorry. You were from somewhere in the Midwest. I'm trying not to disclose any information about anybody. I think you told me that, though. I knew that beforehand. I knew that from somebody else's channel. But now I need to make sure that was okay. But yes, it is a Midwest goodbye. I want to be the last one here. Okay. I should go. This is a Midwest goodbye. Where's my grandma? She could do this quicker. Alright, bye everybody.